Turns out he's a major cinephile. They don't watch enough movies. It's a very simple formula. And here we go. What's good? Welcome to Nick Nack Goes to the Movies, your one-stop shop podcast for all things movies, TV, and pop culture, streaming on all podcast platforms and on all socials at either knickknack_IC or Knickknack Movies on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and yes, Letterboxd. It is time for another magical moment, and while there were some questions to whether the Fantastic Beasts franchise was good, honestly, more hate than I think it deserves. That wouldn't be the case for Doctor Strange's sequel, right? Well, shockingly, the latest MCU movie, which is pretty, hit-laden as a franchise, has instead something here pretty divisive. I don't think there is a clear reason, but after the warmly enough regarded solo outing, the Infinity War duology, and of course his role in one of the stronger MCU films of all time, the later Spider-Man, expectations were high. The second true trek into the multiverse. How bad could it be? How could it be bad even? Sure, that first Multiverse movie brought in not just MCU, but almost the entirety of Spider-Man's live-action cinema history. To the big screen, to near perfection. That may be a good or a bad thing in regards to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. What cameos would we see here, and how much deep Marvel film lore would we get? I don't think Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider's return, that rumor ever existed, but things were getting pretty crazy for this Sam Raimi cinema, what people were hoping for in the experience. But I have some things to say for this horror superhero hybrid flick, so let's discover together a few things. Now, spoilers aplenty, to be warned. The actor list is spoilery enough, so be prepared. If you haven't watched it yet, do it now and then come back. There's also a small spoiler for Men, but we're not really going to try and talk on Men because that's a weird-ass movie. So, now you have been, warned and you've watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, so you're back. Let's talk about the stat cast. Sure, Benedict Cumberbatch would be back, and of course, Benedict Wong, the face of the future for the MCU apparently, and Elizabeth Olsen. The assumption was there would be some role for both Rachel McAdams and Chiwetel Ejiofor to reprise. I think I was probably most shocked at how much Dr. Christine Palmer was in this and how little of our Baron Mordo we had. Now, neither of these were, for the most part, this universe's version. We'll get to that later, and this idea will come up a lot. We had a bit of the first version of Palmer, but no original Mordo is shocking with how the first one ended on the cliffhanger post-credit thing. Probably one of the biggest head scratchers for me. The Wanda kids are back. Somehow no Paul Bettany Vision cameo or anything. Interesting. But the in-universe explanation is interesting, and we'll get to it when we talk on some Ultron things later. The newest ad was Xochitl Gomez as America Chavez, a character who I can't say I was familiar with, but she does a great job in the role, and I'll be curious for the long-term MCU plans with these younger characters. The biggest question, I think, of course, had to be with since Endgame, and it's still here, is where does the MCU go next? The assumption is Kang, but not a lot has been shown outside of the Loki show. Now, before we get to all the exciting cameos from that one scene, yes, the Illuminati stuff, that could be a whole chunk, so let's just get into the main meat and potatoes of the episode, and we'll get to the cameos as we get to it. This movie jumps us into the action pretty quickly with the new character America Chavez, and thankfully off the bat, we're pretty confident this is another Doctor Strange. Both Benedict and Elizabeth are busy playing alternate versions of themselves, albeit most of Wanda's are pretty similar. And pretty quickly, we are both down a Doctor Strange and also a bit wary of ours. Sure, every single one is different. The whole thing of, honestly, they all look different is something that always will come up with, like we saw every Loki look different in Loki, but somehow every Doctor Strange looks the same. It's one of those interesting, who knows why we do the things we do multiverse questions. But we're thinking ours could never take a villainous turn, right? Well, if that shocks you, have I got a character arc that should not come as a surprise for Wanda Maximoff. But even if her show had a bunch of these fun, timely, back-in-time theme songs, she'll take a bit of an arc of someone who could go a bit astray. Now, like I said, we don't get to see R. I will use R as the ones we mostly got to know through this universe of the MCU, which was built up in film history, not random ones we haven't seen. But there is a fun nod and setup of Strange not being able to, A, get the girl, and B, the questions about if the whole Thanos thing could have been done any other way, which is a good build-up to the questions asked shown later on in this movie. Also, straight up, the Strange suit-up scene here is, like, very cold, like, super cool. The pocket square he has in his suit, it's actually his cape, and he jumps off the balcony and, like, magics the rest of his outfit on. It looks pretty good. There have been some cool suit-ups over this almost 30-film franchise so far. A ton of the Iron Man ones come to mind. But this has to be one of the best of all time. No cap, not sus. Insert other internet and gamer slang, Fortnite Battle Pass, and all that. I do like the whole added horror aspects to this movie. They build it up as they go. But for sure, the whole octopus demon and its Lovecraftian design, for start, good. But when its eyeball, like, ends up on the outside of its head, you know this is going to be a very different kind of Marvel movie. You can see how it pushes the limit of PG-13 in movie terms. Sorry, I got a bit video game distracted. I mean, this won't be Game of Thrones or Friday the 13th by the end of it, but it's not as far off as you think it would be. Not that there aren't some darker things in these movies, but this entry specifically is something else. Sure, some demon hunting America for whatever reason of multiverse stuff is only so built up and explained. But now this is where things get interesting. We could have had a very different start to Wanda and her introduction here compared to what we got. So the movie version, still good. Doctor Strange dropping shade on the other Avengers and Wanda accidentally revealing herself as the root cause of the demons and that she's actually hunting America. It's a, accidental reveal. It's a good build and shock reveal to show how far Wanda has fallen and been corrupted by the Darkhold. You kind of see her fingers have that same black color that Agatha had in WandaVision. And, I think at the end of the day, it's justifiable grief. I mean, if losers are people who lose things, she has probably become the biggest loser with little to fall back on in her time with the MCU. She's lost a lot of people in her circle. Now, the other version could have had, this version's Mordo, who we don't see at all, go after her, which tracks for his post-credit arc of wanting to stop all magic users. Now, he would have been wrecked pretty quickly and fall to her clearly demonstrated both power level and her turn to being a little more evil than maybe we would led to believe. She would bring his severed head to Carmartage, and it would, at least it sounded kind of like the scene right before the siege of Minas Tirith in Return of the King, with release the prisoners and just catapulting a bunch of their severed heads off. But this would have been a little more personal. Not sure which was better, the evil, dark turn quick, or the more subtle surprise, shock, and awe. Both angles seem good to me. But just want to let you know that they're both out there, even though obviously only one's canon. We love a good, sympathetic, tragic villain, and there is no one more fitting the bill than Wanda. They try to make you not root for her, but I'm sure there will be people who will go through this whole film and still be on her team and side. Look, she's a grieving mother trying to get her kids back. It's perfect. A little late for Mother's Day, but next Mother's Day, fun for the whole family. The Carmartage raid scene is, however, still very good as it is, even without a severed head of Mordo, who now is, I guess, just bopping around still doing his magic stuff that no one knows about. The absolute carnage that Scarlet Witch pulls on them, the magical war parts, all of the crazy defenses that are fully in part to Doctor Strange accidentally telling the person hunting America right where she is. What a good moment. Also, her coming through mirrors here to get to America and all of the weird, body twisty stuff. It's true, beautiful horror that I'm all about. That and seeing the corruption, like I said, with her fingers, nice attention to detail. This, of course, leads to the big multiverse trip with our Strange in America to a new and exciting Marvel world. Wong gets kind of screwed with screen time and he's just kind of left with Wanda. And honestly, you have a ton of moments where you thought they would kill him off. I mean, they did it to Michael Rooker's Yondu in Guardians 2. Want to have it happen to another beloved character who's not really a main character? You know, I guess they could never really, with him seeming as like one of the lead Avengers, thanks to Shang-Chi's post-credits, but with the eventual thought of wanting Doctor Strange to be the Sorcerer Supreme again, they could totally have done it, and it wouldn't have surprised me, but it would have been pretty sad. But like we said, he's in everything now. Apparently he's going to be in She-Hulk. He's in every Marvel thing now. So, this new universe, of course, has a Bruce Campbell cameo. Not surprising for Spider-Man, Tobey fans, or Evil Dead people, or just Sam Raimi fans. Still haven't done the movies or show, but most except for maybe I think like the second one are on streaming services like Tubi, HBO Max, and Netflix. Everything but Evil Dead 2. Apparently you have to solo pay for that one on Amazon, but you know, $2 for not the end of the world. Annoying, but not the end of the world. Some Marvel exclusive fans may not have been all about it, but I thought they were fun enough nods, like the brief part here and the less Marvel of the post-credit scenes. It's not exactly what you want to wait all the time in the theater for, but you know, I thought it was fine. Well, I'll see if I like the Evil Dead, if I like it even more. Now, gotta say, the Dreamwalk stuff was a pretty fun trip. More horror elements of hunting herself to see the boys and be reunited, like she saw her reflection in the mirror. While I would have loved to see a Paul Bettany, either human or robot version in these, I guess what we got was still good enough, just a missed opportunity. Now, the reason why, which we'll get to some Ultron stuff later, the Illuminati has Ultron drones. And in the same way that if they figured out how to make Ultron without him going evil, Vision as a concept would never exist. And obviously, Paul Bettany's character didn't exist as a person, so I guess they'd say there's no reason he would exist in this universe, or maybe any, because he's just a robot. I don't know. It's an interesting question, but the reason he's not here is because Ultron worked, in the same way that the Illuminati are arrogant because they beat Thanos without losing. So, reasons, but, you know, it's just weird that she kind of seemingly, she remembers the kids, of course, but she doesn't really remember caring about Vision, which is a interesting take of things. The Wanda storyline is probably only so exciting at times, but seeing the whole evil temple with her likeness and the demons guarding it, bending to her will, the whole Scarlet Witch scene from WandaVision with Agatha Harkness and like the other witches really takes a different tone here, and honestly it's in the best possible way. Pretty quickly, when Strange and America go to this alternate world, they meet alternate Mordo trying to find an alternate Strange. Big reveal, the big thing we've been waiting for and trying to avoid before seeing it ourselves, the Illuminati roster. And while there were ideas for who was in or out, I think it was safe to say I was not disappointed. I would love to hear your thoughts on who we eventually got, because the only ones we really knew ahead of time, some form of Professor X, played by the legend who first brought him to live action, Patrick Stewart. So the roster had, for me at least, the most excitement of who could have been on. The speculation, of course, the screen time was always a question. Was it going to be more like the Suicide Squad, where everyone was gone before like 10 minutes into the movie, or were there going to be a big factor in like the second half of the movie? It was a good question. And we saw teases of Haley Atwell's Captain Carter by like the later trailers, and we saw a Captain Marvel, didn't know who it was. So, like I said, questions. There was so much, like, could it have been Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool? One of the Spider-Man, most likely Tobey Maguire, a Tom Cruise Iron Man, one of the two Magnetos, heck, even a Ghost Rider was rumored for this team, or just the movie as a whole. So, who was on the roster? Who actually made it? Now, as you've seen this movie, you know, but let's roll through them. So we got alternate Mordo and some variant Professor X. We did see the jetpack Captain Carter, played by Haley Atwell. We love to see Haley Atwell. I wish Agent Carter got more TV seasons than it unfortunately ended with just the two. And the tease of some sort of Captain Marvel this time was played by Lashana Lynch, a fun switch up of putting Maria Rambeau from Captain Marvel instead of Monica Rambeau from WandaVision, played by Teyonah Parris. Would have been interesting to see her in the role, especially with that connection. Wanda would have at least recognized her, obviously it being a variant, but it feels like none of the payoff for her and WandaVision there'll be any interaction with either Teyonah Parris's Captain Marvel or Elizabeth Olsen's Wanda Maximoff. And it was just more of a soft introduction to her, and it was more of a soft introduction to her before being in the Marvels movie. The last two, probably the biggest surprises. First one, probably most people weren't as asking for it, but I was super happy for it. Humans was one of those projects that never really got sorted out. From a movie that would take place around Infinity War and Endgame, and it was a group similar to the X-Men. The Inhumans we really met a little bit on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but this was something a little different. It became a weird TV hybrid show on ABC. The results were unfortunately not very good, even with Game of Thrones baddie legend Ewan Rayon in it. It starred Anson Mount as the Inhumans King Black Bolt. The actor was amazing in the AMC Western Hell on Wheels, a genre we don't see a lot either on TV or just in general. Common was in it too, fun fact, but it was a nice kind of redemption moment, however brief, to see him in common accurate gear and just on like the big budget movie screen. I'm not saying Inhumans would have been like amazing as a movie, but I would have been curious and it would have felt a little better. Also, some of those special effects, especially for Medusa's hair in the Inhumans TV show, was like, I thought that was horrible. I don't remember everything about that show. Maybe I'll watch it again because it's a short watch on Disney Plus, but I remember the hair thing being like bad. But the big one, of course, the one that took the internet by storm with his inclusion, and this is no new thing. The rumors of John Krasinski in the MCU have been long-standing, especially for the role of Mr. Fantastic. And the dream pairing of him with his actual wife as the couple in the Fantastic Four with Invisible Woman. They were already sharing chemistry in A Quiet Place, which was a great movie, seeing them together in that. So, let's be real. This was pretty exciting. Seeing this in theaters, I was all about it. Like, we heard so much about John Krasinski, and actually, in the Fantastic Four uniform, I like the beard choice. Dr. Reed Richards, I was about it. We don't know if he's going to be it long term, or, you know, that was just a variant, but if he is, that would be a great soft intro to him. Now, the big scene, like, they're all talking to Strange. They recount their take on defeating Thanos and having to kill their Strange for being corrupted by the Darkhold. All this makes them a bit arrogant, and they're focusing on Strange, not the Darkhold, which is obviously the oopsie daisy. And they're all like, oh yeah, we can handle that. Like, how dark the scene that follows was amazing to behold. All from, like, the lines of asking Mr. Fantastic if he has a wife so the kids will have someone to raise them, to pulling, I thought immediately of the first Matrix, getting rid of the mouth moment, and then Black Bolt, like, freaks out and kills himself, blowing his own brain off, and immediately, like, unraveling Mr. Fantastic, the character we were so excited for, and popping his head, killing 2 of the 5 members, not counting alternate Mordo because he was never really in the fight. It was pretty wild and so quickly over. They did have to make it, like, not just a massacre, and they had to give a little bit of fight in. Thankfully, not all just shock factor, but cutting Captain Carter in half with her own shield, we don't see all of it, but still. And even with Captain Marvel putting up a fight, crushing her with a statue, this all sounds dark, but they do what they can to, like, you don't see, like, half a body dripping or something. Like, it's not R-rated, and they did what they can to keep it that way. She killed a lot of Ultron bolts, and, you know, they had their oil on her instead of blood, was kind of probably one of those same things. They kind of kept it from being R-rated by using, oh, it's just oil, you know, whatever. They made Wanda super dark here. And this movie got a bit weird, too, thankfully. Not men weird. The movie was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. I just saw it yesterday. weirdest thing I've seen in my life. And I've liked weird stuff. I like scary stuff, but way too much body horror and like 400% more birth giving than anyone would have expected. And for my liking, probably, especially out of parts that you don't expect. But let's be done with talking about men, because weird movie. Back to Doctor Strange. Wanda kills these 4 stronger members. Professor X is always kind of a little underestimated. Professor X is always a little underestimated because he's in a wheelchair, but he gets into her mind, and it's kind of trippy trying to save this Wanda and walk her out of the dream walking thing. And like then this red mist comes, and like Demon Her comes up and like snaps his neck in his mind, killing him. Also kind of Matrix-y. Like just some real good horror and drama that had you on the edge of your seat. And like they were gone quickly, but the storytelling idea of them worked, and their purpose of showing her growth. I mean, there was pure shock and awe in the Suicide Squad, which obviously is very much what this went with, that same idea. I just personally hope we see our universe's world of these characters sometime in the near future, especially Krasinski. Sadly, no Magneto here, with him being Wanda's father. Hopefully one day the X-Men bridge will happen with the MCU, and maybe some tie to the Fox X-Men history. I mean, there were some good casts there. They weren't all perfect, but I really do, as you may know from my 2 X-Men episodes, I'm a pretty big proponent of the X-Men Fox movies as a whole. This was a good... I'll hope that it's a start and not just a one-off for that to be a thing. Wanda hunting the remaining people, it really does feel right out of a horror movie. They're trying to block doors off, and she just keeps coming and coming and coming, and the red eyes coming through the darkness, like, very good. The only people who get out are Strange, this universe's Christine Palmer, and America, and they find a great way to keep this tension up. Like I said, there's a part where they think they drown her, and she just comes out of the water, kind of like coming out of the mirrors, and there are times when she looks fully demonic. And there are a few good jump scares mixed in here, too. This universe's Mordo survives, and I've heard rumors of, maybe he brings everyone back because they're so intelligent and smart from his team. And, now there's multiple Mordos who don't like Strange, so that could be something with unsolved arcs. I really wish the our universe's Strange could have, seen our universe's Mordo for even some piece of it. It feels like really left out. Probably one of the bigger bummers overall. So through all of this, Strange and Christine end up in a dark world where a universe incursion occurred, and it's interesting that they kind of made this rule and set this up. So I don't know if that means Sony has to potentially give up Keaton and send him back, or the rules state that the Sony universe would just have an incursion and implode on itself. So yeah, do this. Send Vulture back to the MCU. Super curious what Venom 3 will be about with all this interesting multiverse talk, and I'm pretty excited and happy for the most part with Tom Hardy's Venom. We all want to see him fight a Spider-Man. I think ideally Tom Hardy and Tom Holland will be going head-to-head or something, but that may not be possible either with the same whole incursion thing unless they get really creative with their universe rules. There were so many questions on if What If was required MCU viewing, especially for this movie, but the Captain Carter is different here, as well as the Dark Doctor Strange, than in the animated show. They're not the ones that are here, so it can more or less be its own thing, which I'm in favor of. I don't love What If always. I think it's fine, but it's not like I'm like, oh, I need this in my life. The fight between the Stranges and using music notes as a weapon, super cool. Some of the tones and orchestral pieces, I like a little fun music and oldie stuff, and I was about it. All of the fighting in general was super cool, and to see the fun VFX and just special attention with all these graphics, and I was about it. We also got zombie Doctor Strange, so the guy who died in the beginning became possessed and did a little bit of Strange, did a little bit of dream walking of his own, which, being a hypocrite and doing the same thing Wanda did, it's a fun question this movie asks, but never really answers why he can do reckless things and be fine and she can't. But Zombie Strange with a bunch of demon hands on his cape, super cool. Now, the fight, once again, in the end of it, looks cool, and, America discovers her powers and controls them a bit to help take out Wanda. Now, how shows it is it's not just fighting, it's a little bit of emotional catharsis, but like, we get something that is probably the worst part of this movie. A horrendous ice cream song, which I'm sure you've all heard of, like, "We'll be good, ice cream," or something like that. It's from a variant of Her Kids. And let me tell you, if I heard that song if I was her, I'd just say, I'm good. I don't need the kids no more. Like, this is horrible. Like, really bad. Not sure what this was, but this is like, I don't know if you're trying to make kids be cute. It was so cringe, and I will shudder to rewatch this when this scene comes on. Not as much as Spider's Biggest Houses in movies, but this is pretty rough. Like, there's cringy things in superhero movies, especially some of those earlier ones, like the emo Peter Parker stuff, the snapping, the dancing. I'll still watch that, though. It's funny. Like, same director from Spider-Man 3 who did this, and I can appreciate that cringe. But thankfully, in the end, Wong, the true MVP of Phase 4 as of now, Strange, and America all make it out. Wanda, not so lucky, sacrificing herself. A bit unnecessary to end the Darkhold Forever universe. I'm sad to see her apparent exit from the MCU with a lot of questions, but you never know. She could come back. You never really know. After this, America becomes a wizard in training in this universe, which you would think would also break the rules of, people in different universes, incursions, but I don't know. I'm sure we'll maybe find out more, maybe. Would have been fun to see Ned in the wizard school too, but maybe with the whole mind wipe thing and Peter Parker, maybe all that stuff never happened. We're still trying to suss out what truly happened with all that stuff and who knows what. And I'm telling you, that next Spider movie will have to answer a lot of questions, as good as obviously the third of those 3 movies was. What else happens here? Doctor Strange gets a third eye. We're introduced to another character in the MCU that most casual fans, myself included, have never heard of in Clea, who is like a romantic lead, sometimes bad, sometimes good wizard from the Nightmare realm with Dormammu, played by this time by Charlize Theron. No, it's not Angelina Jolie's character from Eternals. A few people I watched with were wondering that. So, in short, I like this. I think it's a good movie. I think it's really fun. I like how dark it gets. No Vision's a little weird of any kind in multiverse travel with White Vision. There's a reason why with the whole not Ultron thing, but I think it's missed. No storyline progression from the original Mordo. I think that's a huge miss because it feels like there's something that should have happened between Doctor Strange 1 and 2 that we just never saw. Like I said, true letdown. For like a 2-movie series, you shouldn't have something like that feel that left on the cutting room floor. And of course, the ice cream song. But let's get you to the Letterboxd rating and my MCU list rankings that are kind of updated now. So, 4 stars. I'll just put it out there. I don't think that's too high. I really enjoyed it. This movie is currently ranked 11th on my complete MCU list on Letterboxd, real close to the top 10. That ice cream song really did it some damage. This is right under the original Iron Man, right above Spider-Man Far From Home. I really do like all 3 of those Spider-Man quality trilogy, I think. I actually went and tweaked this list a little bit. Biggest changes for me, I think I had the original Thor jumping up a few spots. Not really sure why. I think I always like it more than I realized. I mean, obviously the second one's rough, but who knows? Getting ready for the new Thor. Maybe that's just recency bias, right? But make sure to check out the full list, see all the changes, keep updated, and check out all my lists on Letterboxd at knickknack_IC. So that's it. That's the episode. No post-credit here. But I really did enjoy this blend of horror and superhero movie that was on display for us. I like my horror movies. With a little bit of cheddar, a little bit of cheese. I'm a Wisconsinite after all. You know what I don't like my horror movies looking like? Men. Weird movie. Weird-ass movie, man. So, this movie, though, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, did it for me. I love the darker tone, and I really enjoyed this. Cameos and more. I got some questions overall, and, it's not perfect, but I really want to know where the overall MCU will go next. I know we have time to sort it out, and I don't think Love and Thunder, the Thor movie, will answer those questions. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it, but, I'm obviously excited for that movie as well, especially for Russell Crowe. So, what did you think of this? Let me know on social at knickknack_IC or knickknackmovies. Can't wait to hear from you, and as always, cheers, and until next time, cinephiles. Are you not entertained? I think this is gonna be the beginning of a beautiful friendship. I don't like goodbyes. Let's just call this see you later.